Is this being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We record and we restream on Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. So
Okay, that'll work. Because I'm up for tenure and I want to
ooh,
include this for my portfolio. I want
we
to include
love it. We get to help with
Nice.
tenure. So
Yes,
everybody, if you
yes,
believe
yes,
in prayer,
yes.
we're gonna reach out, we're gonna touch Dr. Phillips and her application.
Yes, 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 yes.
Alrighty then. So everybody, give us another 3 minutes. We just want to give people a chance to come on in. The conversation for this evening is there any hope for Black America? A couple of weeks ago, we were talking and we just said, like, randomly, I think it was Tawana who said it. I wonder if there's an economist watching, and Dr. Cheri, she sent me her resume and we had a great conversation the following day, and she's here. So she's going to answer questions from a macroeconomic point of view. We are going to talk about the K-shaped recovery. She said, actually, we did a pretty good job, but I'm sure she
Yes,
has a couple of things to add to it. We
yes,
also are going to talk about the Citigroup study that
yes.
said that discrimination has cost the United States $19 trillion.
Yes.
Wow.
$19 trillion. And I actually pulled up the original study. The original study is 104 pages, so we ain't going through all of that, but we will read an article from NPR and see a couple of pages that have like the snapshots of what they said. And I'm sure
Yes.
Dr. Cheri is going to have some more to add with that as well. We
Yes.
also have hopefully a guest coming on, Tawana, that had some questions with regards to the equity crowdfunding.
Okay.
I need to go and check what his name is again. I apologize for that, or Tawana, you can check it really quickly. But we invited someone else to come.
Oh, was that Charles?
That had the questions about
Yes,
the equity
yes.
crowdfunding, and we invited him to the Fireside chat. So
I'll look at the name and see if we
yes,
can.
please. And okay, and Dr. Keisha, are you able to check on Facebook and see if you're able to see the stream, see if you are
Not
able
in
to?
the member group yet, and it's not in the main group.
It's not in either place. Okay. Let me see.
Sorry, Dr. Keisha, I was already there. Oh, we can't hear you, Keisha.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. That's what I said earlier.
Alrighty then. I am not sure. It is on YouTube. So let me see here. I don't know. Restream is really weird. Sometimes it asks me for certain data, sometimes it doesn't. And it seems like when it doesn't is when we have problemas. Oh, I see it. I see it in the members group. So there are 4 people in the members group watching. John Campbell, Purple Lioness,
Oh, and
Crypto
it's in the main
Lioness.
group now as well.
It is.
Okay, all right, maybe it just takes a couple of minutes. So if you all can find it in the main group, I have it on my cell phone here, so I can say hello to everybody.
Hey, there's
And we are going to get started. So welcome to the 10K Project. This is our weekly fireside chat where we discuss topics with regards to Black economics, how we can come together in order to raise the economic profile of the Black community. I am Cheri, CEO of the company. I am joined here by the beautiful Dr. Keisha Waddell. Raise your hand. She is our Chief Instructional Officer, and Tawana Rivers, who is our Chief Compliance and Operations Officer. And we have a special guest with us today, Dr. Cheri Phillips, who is an economist. And she just told us that she is up for tenure and she's going to use tonight's session. So as part of her, I guess, her tenure application or how, okay, great.
Yes.
So
Part
we
of my
want to ask her
portfolio.
some really good questions. We want to help her knock it out of the park tonight. For those of
Good.
you who just came in, again, we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. Number one is just what's happening in the economy overall. I'm a big fan of not only talking about it from a macroeconomic point of view, but what we can do as individuals to take advantage of it, because there are, I did Black Money Daily this morning, and there are several million jobs that are not coming back at all. But for those jobs, there are new jobs, new businesses that are being created. And our question for each one of us is, how can we participate in that? So that's number one. Number two, we talked about the K-shaped recovery a couple of weeks ago. Dr. Cheri said that we were on point, but she has a couple of things to add, so we want to do that. Number three, Citigroup came out with a study that said that discrimination is against Black Americans in particular is costing the US economy $19 trillion. So we're going to take a look at that. We are going to talk about what the 10K project is and how we can help build the Black economy from the ground up. We also have someone else who hopefully will come in who had some specific questions. If he doesn't come in, Tawana, we can still answer the questions on live here, because he has some specific questions about what we have applied for, which is SEC and FINRA application. We've already put in the SEC application to do something called equity crowdfunding. For legal purposes, we have to talk about it in a setting like this where you all are able to ask us feedback questions. We can't put it on the website, we can't put it in email, etc. So when those questions were asked this week, which were great questions, Tawana had the great idea to invite, is it Charles?
It's Charlie Conable. Charlie Conable.
Charlie, yes, invite Charlie on. So we'll see if he is able to join us. If not, we'll still read those questions out. So is everyone ready to get started?
Let's get it.
Yes.
All righty then. So Dr. Cheri Phillips, based on your resume, first of all, you have a ton of accomplishments. You're currently an economics professor. You also have your own consulting company where you look at macroeconomic data and do a lot of data analysis. We're just going to sit back, let you, give us your words of wisdom. If you want to take like 10 minutes and just tell us what's happening in the economy. We try to stay away from politics, but we recognize that, this is happening, and based on who wins, there may be some economic changes that's going to happen for the Black community. So we are not partisan here. However, we need to be aware. So we want to talk about that, as well as anything else. We're just going to give you the floor for, 5 to 10 minutes, whatever you want to say to us tonight.
I guess I will start out by answering the question that's on the floor, on the table. And the table is there hope? And I'm going to say, in the short and simple, it would be, it depends. And again, it depends upon where you are and in terms of income and socioeconomic status. Depends on, and I'm going to link it to the K-shaped recovery. So I would tell you that it depends in the theoretical sense. In the realistic sense, that as a community, no matter what happens, up, down, sideways, we are still going to survive. And since we know that we're going to survive, there is always hope. So when we talk about this recovery, traditionally, we've always said that economic recovery is either going to be what we call U-shaped, meaning that it's going to take a little longer than we want it to recover, or it's going to be V-shaped, meaning we're going to bounce back fairly quickly. Historically, we've done the U-shape, and when you speak in terms of just recently, the most recent economic downturn that we had, which was in the early 2000s, when you look at the length that we had then, it was more V-shaped than U-shaped. And so now we're once again through fiscal policy and through monetary policy, we find ourselves back again in the trough or the downside of the economic cycle. And so now we're saying, okay, how do we get out? One, the primary way to get out of any recession is to spend your way out. And so you will either the government sector will spend us through incentives and stimulus. They'll spend us out. Households will spend us out, or the business sector will spend us out. Preferably, you want all three participants working together to spend us out. That way, we can quickly get out of the recessionary portion or the trough of the business cycle. What we've seen recently is that when the government and households work together, we get out a whole lot quicker than when the business comes in, primarily because just through policy, businesses are more likely to hoard and save when they are given an opportunity to spend. They'll hoard and save, and they will say, increase shareholder value, and those kinds of terms, to not make the investments in terms of wages, not make investment in terms of equipment and putting back into the business so that it will help grow the economy. When we now, there has been a handful of economists, generally economists that are familiar with inequities and inequality, that have said, hey, we're not so much U-shape or V-shape in terms of our economic recovery. It's more like a K-shape, because some people will bounce back quickly. That's the top part of the K. And then others will not bounce back as quickly. In fact, some do worse off. And that's the bottom shape of the K. And so you'll hear that prior to last week, you were primarily hearing the K-shaped model for economic recovery from those of us who are interested in, have studied, and are somewhat of an expert in inequality as it relates to either, for me, the Black community, for others, the Black community, or whether you're talking about industry or whether you're talking about specific sectors. And so this K-shape. So to give you an example, the airline industry is not going to recover as quickly as, say, the tech industry. So in a macro sense, we would say the K-shape, if we were looking at industries, we would see that the tech industry is going to bounce back fairly quickly. And then we'll see hospitality or the airline, they would be the bottom half of that K. So that would be an example of the K-shape when you're applying it to industry. When we're applying it to households, we would say that if you make over a certain income, and I'm going to throw out $250,000, if your household income is about $250,000 or more, if you are fiscally responsible, you'll see your recovery and your bounce back will be much like that of the tech. If, however, you're making $100,000 or less, and I would even venture to say $75,000 or less, then you're more likely to see that bottom, be in that bottom half of the K. And it falls in line with, individual households who, it doesn't matter who's in office, the lot is still the same. Just like if you're in the bottom half, the bottom quartile, if you're in the upper quartile, it doesn't matter who's in office. You're pretty much set with what you're going to get. Either your income is of such that you're not going to pay taxes, or you'll pay minimum taxes, or you'll get some type of government subsidy, incentive, or tax breaks that will allow your obligation to be minimized, or you'll be in the top part, that top quartile, where you have enough income where you can hire professionals that can help you mitigate and protect your income, protect your assets, and so then you're not impacted. And we see this when we
question for you. So you mentioned the lower quartile. Is
Mhm.
that 75,000 a lower, or is that a lower amount?
That is even lower than 75.
So is it
So
poverty level or?
that would be poverty level. So that would be between 35 and 38,000 and less.
Okay. Okay, so anybody who makes over 250,000 and up has options, and anyone who makes 38,000 and down typically aren't taxed, or, so this is where the middle class squeeze comes in. And it does
Exactly.
matter who's in office for that middle class.
Exactly.
Got
Exactly.
it. Okay.
Is this
Exactly.
only about income, or are there certain characteristics that come into play as well on an individual?
We use income because income is neutral, but there are definitely other factors that come into play. Factors such as assets. What assets do we own? Are we homeowners or not?
Mhm.
Do we have appreciating asset? Are we investors, or are we just consumers? Do we have our own businesses? There's those type of factors. Our educational level also is a factor, plays a factor. Our network, believe it or not, your network has some impact. But for the most part, we use income because income is neutral and it is measurable.
I have
But there are
another
other,
question
your
for
zip
you.
code is also, yes.
Ah,
Okay, I'm sorry. I have another question for you. So,
Okay.
oh gosh, I hope I didn't just forget it. Oh, yes. So is it for households? So like the let's say 250 and above. Is it 250K in your household? Do you have to be married? Is it, if three adults are living together, like their family, not
Oh,
random
yes.
people, like family, like
We're talking
grandma,
about a family
mom,
unit.
sister living together, but they make 250 combined and they own that home, like just a little bit more.
When I say household, it is assumed that it is a one family unit, and generally, which is one of the issues that we have in economics. It's typically we're talking about a nuclear household, where you have a couple that's married and their family and their children, or
Well, because
if
we have
you're
low
single.
marriage rates in the
Say it
Black,
again.
so we have low marriage rates
Exactly.
in the Black community. However, it's not uncommon for mom and two sisters to be living in the same house, which is the reason why I was asking about that.
Yes, and in those instances, the way that the tax, and I'm not a tax professional, but our understanding, as an economist, when we're factoring those issues, that would be three separate households living in under the same roof.
That makes a
Right?
difference. Okay, I got it. Yes.
Exactly.
Dr. Cheri,
And
can you
that's
go
why
back to
you're
the
more.
zip code? You
Say it
mentioned
again?
something about the zip code. Can you go back to that? Why is that important?
Yes. Okay, so that's important because typically the zip code, so it depends, the zip code determines property value, right? And that lends itself towards wealth. Also, it also depends within that zip code whether or not you're renting or whether you're buying, right? So I can be in a good neighborhood and my children can go to a good school, but if I don't own that home, if I'm renting that home, that's not mine.
Right.
And that's how zip codes also play a part.
Thank you. That makes sense. Wow.
Did you have more
So-
for us? If not, I have a couple of
My
questions.
head is spinning. I'm so
I know, this
excited
is
about this
great. Like, I
conversation.
love it.
I would much rather do the dialogue.
You want to do the dialogue?
Q&A.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's
All
do the
right then.
dialogue.
So, you mentioned the airlines versus tech. And
Yes.
again, Black Money Daily has been very useful because it causes me to have to look at all of these stories. And one of the stories that came up is that the airlines are threatening to lay off, I think, hundreds of thousands of people, if not a million
Yes.
people plus,
Yes.
if
Yes.
they don't get another bailout.
Yes.
They're threatening that. So
Yes.
I wanted to talk because we consistently hear this whole thing with economics of the government outspending itself, and then we end up in the hole and the national debt and, all of that. Just from your point of view, have there been any statistical analysis with regards to, should our grandchildren be concerned about the national debt if you're going to have 1 million plus people out of work because the airline industry goes under? I'm just very curious about, I guess, how the Fed or Congress, or I don't even know who makes the decisions, but how do they even think about these things, and balance these things out?
Okay, so when we're talking about the policy, there's two types of policy. There's fiscal policy, and that is controlled by Congress and the executive branch. The president comes up with what he or she says that their budget should be, how the government should spend its money. And then Congress comes up with their budget, and then they kind of align the two and say, okay, we're going to agree to this, but not to this. We're going to agree to this, but not to this. And they hash out till they get to one final budget. Congress approves it, president signs off on it. That's fiscal policy, and that's how the government spends its money. Then you also have monetary policy, and that's controlled by the Federal Reserve Bank. And there are 12 branches, and they have the chairman of the board. It used to be Janet Yellen, and I'm trying to remember right now, and it escapes my mind, the new chair, who the chairman of the current board is. And so what they do is they meet quarterly, and they say, okay, let's see what happened in the last 2 or 3 quarters. Let's see, what do we forecast the next 1 or 2 quarters are going to be? And then what they do is monetary policy controls the amount of money that flows into the economy. So they will do things like whether or not they give extra money, cash, to the banks, because they want the banks to loan that money out to get the economy circulating. Or they might choose to impact interest rates. They may lower or raise the interest rates. And that's so that we can, if they lower the interest rates, then they want people to borrow. They want banks to take that money, and they want businesses and they want households to borrow money and then use that to spend. If they raise the interest rates, they want households and they want businesses to save. There's too much money circulating. There's the risk of inflation, and so to curb inflation, they'll pull the money out, and they do that by raising the interest rates, and then that will cause you to save money because I'm getting more return on it if I, put it in this higher interest bearing account. So you got monetary policy, you got fiscal policy, and so generally, they kind of work together. The Federal Reserve kind of looks to see what the government is going to do, and then adjust and adapt accordingly. Then there are some times when they say we're not going to wait on government, and then they go ahead and they proceed as what they've done just recently. So they're saying, okay, listen, economy is still not where we want it to go. People still aren't spending. Households are not spending. The government is really not spending the way we need to get us out. So we're going to hold interest rates still low in the hopes that maybe the business will start borrowing some more money. Maybe households will start buying some more borrowing money, and then they can spend it. And then what we found is that businesses if they're borrowing the money, they're not borrowing the money to buy new equipment, to expand, to increase wages. They're not using it for that. They're using it to buy back stock.
Well, they were doing that when the economy was good. When the tax, I know when the tax cut happened, a lot of people were warning about that. And then a year later, well, actually, even before the tax cuts happened, the businesses said, we're not going to invest this money. We're going to, buy back, they told the government, and the government decided to do it anyways. So
exactly. And the government that did it anyway, did not hold them accountable. And whether or not that contributed to where we are now, Some economists say yes, others say no. It just depends upon your particular political leaning. And so you've got these two going on. You've got the fiscal and the monetary going on.
Mhm.
Now, in terms of deficit spending, that is not unlike what we do in a household. Government is spending more than what it's taking in.
Mhm.
What it takes in taxes, it's spending more than that. And it's not taking as much in taxes because they are giving tax incentives, tax breaks, entitlements. So if you are, X number of, in a certain income bracket, or if you're a corporation, there's some incentives. And the justification is if we save you money on taxes, then you will in turn take that and invest it in wages, in equipment. And that's what has not been happening.
Right.
And so the government is not receiving as much money as they could, and they're still spending. And then now, because of COVID, spending more as a result. And so that's where the deficit spending is. And is that sustainable? From a household's perspective, that's not sustainable. Although we do it when we swipe our credit cards and, push the can down the road, the government's doing the exact same thing. Should we worry about this for our children and our grandchildren? Yes. But however, history has shown us we'll continue to kick it down. And it will have to take, and here's the other thing. So when you hear different ones saying we shouldn't, have this deficit because we owe all these people, I will tell you that the federal government is indebted mostly to the US, to the American people. Yes, they have outstanding loans with other countries. And, the first that you'll hear is like, we owe China a whole lot of money. We're indebted to China. We're indebted to Russia. We're indebted. Yeah, we are, but we're indebted more so to the US, to us, the taxpayers. In that when you buy bonds, when you buy T-bills, that's a debt that is owed. When they spend, it's kind of almost like a credit card. So when Congress and the government says, I'm only bringing in $100 million, but I'm going to spend $250 million, that extra 150, they don't receive it right now. They're going to receive it on future taxes. They're borrowing against future taxes, against future revenue. That's why they owe us, American citizens, more than they would owe other countries. They do owe other countries. They do take out loans. They do currency exchange. They do that. But when you say how much of this is against taxpayers and we're borrowing against future tax revenue, that is way larger than it is what we're borrowing from other foreign countries.
Okay. So if we're looking at this on a household level, and you talk about that household that makes even the $100,000 and less, the odds that they're going to be able to generate additional income in a quick amount of time, unlikely, right?
Right.
So collectively, as a community, how do we leverage each other to try to change things?
The same way we leverage, and I'm mindful of something that Tom Joyner did. You know how we can get together and we can protest and boycott whenever we see an injustice with some type of retailer. We see an email, the CEO of such and such company made this crass statement, and so all of a sudden we're going to get together and we're going to boycott, or we're going to send a letter to, or an email to, or we're going to blow up the phone line. In that same way that we are able to harness our potential, we can do that same way here in terms of economics. The only difference is we see instant results there, whereas with money, we don't always see it instantly. And since we have conditioned ourselves in this microwave fashion,
Yeah.
unlike our predecessors, unlike our ancestors who understood and appreciated that when the child was born, I'm going to take out a life insurance policy, and I'm going to pay my $1, I'm going to pay my $2 a month, and the insurance, because I remember my grandmother, the insurance man would come to my grandmother's house and she would give him a couple of dollars on this life insurance policy because they appreciated and understood that this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And this is definitely not a 15-second microwave. And so we have to retrain ourselves again. One, that it's not microwave. Two, to think beyond ourselves. We need to think beyond ourselves. Entrepreneurship is good. Everybody's not going to be an entrepreneur. Everybody shouldn't want to be an entrepreneur. We can't have all leaders and no workers. But if you choose to be an entrepreneur, then the mindset should not be just to replace my income. The mindset should be job creation, right? So I'm going to start off this makeup line in the hopes that, yes, right now the short-term goal is to replace my income so I can experience the freedom of having my own and doing my own and making my own. But the long term should be, not only am I replacing my income, but I'm going to replace someone else's income because I've hired them on.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's a
going to
good
try to
point.
I'm trying to hire as many people as I possibly can.
Mhm. That's
That
actually a
should be the
good
goal.
point. When we talked to our other economist, Eddie, and he gave us some statistics about that. Companies that do not hire anybody typically make anywhere $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Companies that do hire people are at $750,000 a year
And more.
and more.
Yes.
Yes. So what he even explained to us was our ratio of what they call employer firms, meaning companies that hire in the Black community, is far, far beneath the other communities. And that's one of the reasons why we're not winning. And
Yes.
I'm looking forward to when our economic report can come out for everybody, because I think people are going to actually enjoy reading it. But that was one of the things he definitely talked about. And, I do think your goal, not yours, but, we need to have a shifting target for our households in terms
Yes.
of, how much money should we be bringing in? How much money should we be saving? And for our businesses, how much money, should we be bringing in, and what types of businesses are we starting in order to do that, and leveraging in order to do
honestly,
that?
that's the next, Small Business Administration has said that for the last 3 years, Black women have outpaced as entrepreneurs, has outpaced every other gender and every other race, the other gender and every other race. But we need to look at what we are, what services are we going into? What products
what
are we
businesses are
selling?
we starting? Yes, and are they businesses that are scalable?
Yes,
because
exactly.
we may have the numbers, but if we don't have scalable businesses, then we're
We're
not
still
going
going
to
to be,
maximize our potential.
And the
and
wheels
we will be here 10 years from now having the same
Saying the
conversation.
same thing. So
And
with
having the same
that,
conversation.
commercial break for the 10K project so that we can tell you how we are looking to be the solution to the problem. Also, Charlie Conable, I see you here. So we're going to let you come on as well in order to ask your questions. And then I'm seeing a lot of great comments here as well. Please bring your questions for Dr. Phillips so that we are able to answer those. But I'm going to share my screen here and just talk for 5 minutes about the 10K project. If you are new, we want to welcome you tonight. Who are we? And how can we help build the Black community? That's a great question. We're a community of individuals supporting Black entrepreneurs and investors. And we consider ourselves an economic development movement from the ground up. A lot of times we hear about things from the top down. However, we're saying, how can we as individuals come together in order to make a change in our economy? And Eric Spence, who's here tonight, he brought something to our attention called the 3.5% rule. And you can look it up, Google it. It was a study that looked at how social change happens. And the researchers found when 3.5% of a community came together and marched for something, stood for something, said we want to change something, social change happened in a country. Well, we're applying the same thing, and we want 3.5% of our community, which is about 1.3 million people, to come together so that we can affect economic change. And we're looking at higher incomes, buying assets, starting businesses, and building generational wealth. So how do we do that? The first way that we do it is through the webinars that we have in the Knowledge Center that Dr. Keisha is working on building for us and with us. So we have, over the next few weeks, we have a very powerful set of events, whether you are, want to start a new business, you want to grow your business, you want to invest. We have a couple of financial experts that are coming on in November to talk about debt solutions and allocating your investments and all sorts of things. Thank you so much to everybody who has reached out, who set their financial planner. I have more financial planners to speak with this week. So we are having a strong October and November with regards to entrepreneurship and personal financial education. We also have membership that's available. An example of a member webinar is the Starting the Family Bank webinar. This was a Black family that came on. They started off with $25 per month per person, and now they have 7 figures in assets and cash in their family bank. It was an hour-and-a-half decision. We did a deep dive. It was awesome. If you were there, if you would put in the chat, did you like it? Did you learn a lot from it? And note that the Family Bank Challenge is happening. It's starting November 2nd. We're going to have enrollment starting November 2nd for the Family Bank Challenge. So that is coming up as well. And just stay tuned. We'll give more information with regards to that. So you can become a member. You get access to the members only wealth building webinars, the business building webinars, the Knowledge Center with exclusive content, and our business directory. It's a one-time lifetime payment of $100, and you can sign up at the10kproject.com. But wait, there's more. In order to really affect change, we need to come together economically in order to start funding our own businesses. And there is a law that was passed in 2012, the Jobs Act, that allows for something called equity crowdfunding. What all equity crowdfunding is a group of people coming together to fund a business in exchange for equity or partial ownership or shares in that business. We have filed with the SEC. We're waiting on pins and needles for the response from them. We have done our fingerprinting. Tawana and I will have to do an interview with FINRA, but we have hired competent legal counsel. She's done this for a few other portals before, and she is helping us through this process. We have to say if we are approved by law, because we cannot guarantee that we're going to be approved. But this is our way of tackling this issue. So when 10,000 everyday people come together, put in $100 each into a business, that's $1 million. The community can start funding its own businesses, profiting from the innovation. We can create jobs and we can help build Black wealth. And that is the essence of the 10K Project, which is where our name came from. So again, I want to encourage everybody to become a member. If you feel like this resonates with you, please feel free to become a member, the10kproject.com. And with that, Tawana, did you have anything to add before we bring up Charlie?
No, that was very thorough. I think you covered everything.
Okay, so Charlie, I'm going to bring you up now because Charlie had some great questions this week as well. And then we're going to go back to Dr. Cheri and have conversation with her, answer some questions because you got some questions here on Facebook and here in the Q&A. So Charlie, do you hear us? I don't know what happened to him.
Let's see.
Oh,
No,
there
him
he
is a her. I'm definitely a girl.
Oh, you're her. I'm so sorry. Oh my
I do it to
goodness.
everyone. It's okay.
Oh,
I've always
I'm so
been a girl.
sorry.
No, it's really okay.
Hi.
Hi. Most people think my husband and I are a gay couple. It's completely
Oh,
completely okay. So I'm starting a business. I actually just incorporated and have all my legalities done, and I'm actually starting to set it all up. And my husband and I are starting this very especially because after watching what happened this last year, I felt an overwhelming desire to do something that would help benefit my community. As a Black woman, I've spent a lot of time in luxury retail and wholesale, and I've personally encountered all sorts of incredible amounts of bias and racism. And after watching everything going on, I just felt like what was the best way to give back. And so I came up with an idea of something along the lines of what I know, which is sales. And I thought I could curate a boutique of different items, whether it's retail, clothes, or candles, or body. It doesn't really matter what the product is, as long as it's quality and it's founded and made or founded and owned by a Black woman in America.
okay.
I found there's a lot of really great products that are British based and African based, but I really want to focus on American Black women. So everything in my shop will be curated from that.
Okay.
My question is, we're going to start online. We wanted to do a retail boutique, but with COVID, it's just insane out there. So we're going to start with an online boutique and then, hopefully get a storefront soon after. But on top of purchasing from these entrepreneurs, which of course will help them to succeed, and really marketing it and really creating interest, because I'm really going to highlight every single creator on the website. It's not going to be about my company so much as it's going to be about, we're going to show you these amazing people and what they're doing. We also want to invest in 1 to 2 charities or 1 to 2 nonprofits that long-term help the Black community, specifically women, but the Black community is the Black community, and I'm all about all of it. So we looked at your project. I became a member because I wanted to learn more. Absolutely. I really love what you're doing. I wanted to know, how do you vet your companies that we would like, how do we go about the investment part? Like, how do we figure out what we want to invest through your company? How does that work? As I have a million things happening all at once, I'm trying to streamline all the different processes I need to figure out. Because I really do want to we want to take a portion of all of our profits every month and put it towards that, either the nonprofit or the charity, outside of just buying from the individual entrepreneurs.
Sure. So I can start, Tawana, and then you can jump in. So the first thing is, because we are regulated by the SEC and FINRA, they have, number one, the ultimate list of the ways that people are vetted. So you have to fill out something called a Form C. And every business that comes on the platform, if we are approved, okay, every business that would come on the platform would have to complete that Form C. They would have to file with the SEC. They would have to go through the SEC's process in order to, in order for them to give the check mark. Okay. We will also have an application process as well. We internally are speaking amongst each other and with legal counsel with regards to the attributes that companies will have to have. Right now, definitely know that it has to be a Black-owned business. We have a percentage of ownership in mind, but we'll share that. We will also have some other items within the application that business owners will have to have. And then the third group of people that vet are the individual investors. So we encourage the investors to take a look at the entrepreneurs' social media pages, at their websites, read their Form Cs, do a deep dive and ask, is this a company that I feel comfortable putting my money into? Is this an entrepreneur that I feel comfortable putting my money into? So any entrepreneur will have to go through all three in order to, raise the capital that they're looking for.
Okay. Okay.
And Tawana,
And
is
when
there
will that
anything you want
start?
to
When will
add
you
to
be-
that? I'm sorry, but before you go back, Charlie, I just want to make sure Tawana doesn't have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, I'll just add that, again, if we are approved to be an equity crowdfunding platform, we will absolutely do some additional vetting. But the thing to remember from an investor standpoint is you have to be prepared to lose everything, right? There are no
Right.
that we can
Right.
make. And so we have to say that just so that everyone understands that while we are going to do some vetting, there's no way for us to say that a company is going to be, a unicorn company, right? Where they have revenues of over $1 million. There's no way for us to guarantee that. What we can say is that if we are approved to be an equity crowdfunding platform, we will absolutely look at the business models, make sure that it is a scalable business, right? Because ultimately, an investment opportunity should render a return if it is going to be success. That's how you gauge success, based on the return that it renders. And so to the best of our ability, we will research the business, make sure that they have a plan to scale and grow, something that's longstanding and reasonable, right? Industry matters, right? Because certain industries dictate, success. And so we'll also look at, our process also looks at the founders of that business, anyone owning more than 20% of that business. We do background checks on them and determine if there's anything that we need to be concerned about there. That's also something that the SEC requires, and the escrow company will handle that process for us. The other thing to remember from an investor standpoint is 10K in all crowdfunding platforms, so not just 10K, they don't actually touch the investor dollars. And I think that's really important. So what happens is the investor invests in the campaign, and those dollars go immediately from our platform, from our system, directly into the escrow account. So 10K never touches those dollars at all, and the investor doesn't touch those dollars until it's time. And what happens is if the entrepreneur doesn't touch those dollars until it's time. And what happens is the entrepreneur sets a goal for themselves of how much money they need. Right now, the law allows you to raise up to $1,070,000. That's estimated to increase to $5 million soon. Everybody's still waiting for that news to happen. And so it's important to know that these dollars are really being monitored and held in safekeeping by a reputable escrow company, right? So what happens is if the entrepreneur meets the goal that they set, and by meeting the goal, let's say they need $50,000 to scale the business, or $100,000 to buy the manufacturing plant. That's the goal they set for themselves. If they only raise 90,000 and they said the goal was 100, and the campaign goes the distance and they never raised 100, unfortunately, they don't get those monies, and the investor gets their monies back, and 10K doesn't get anything either. So that's how it works. So, if we are approved, one of the things we'll be having good conversations with the entrepreneur about is really determining a goal that is both reasonable, realistic, and being able to back up how you need it, why you need it, what are you going to use the funds for, and all of those things. Those are questions investors should always ask. And then if the goal is met, then the 10K project will receive a percentage of whatever that raise is. And then the entrepreneur receives the rest of those monies, and the investor now has ownership in this company. So it's kind of the inner workings of how it all operates. You know, we are working, as Cheri said, on all of the specifics. We've got an entrepreneur's guide that we're fairly ready to drop, but we can't drop it, unfortunately, until we receive our approvals. And so that will be
What's the time frame? What's the time frame for the approvals?
So we applied. So as Dylan in the chat commented earlier, we applied for SEC approval on the 26th of September. No,
Okay.
of August. Sorry.
Okay.
And so they within 30 business days they should be able to give you a response back. That means we should get something this week. So we're all on pins and needles.
That's exciting.
That. And so that's just step one. So after the SEC approves you, well, let me back up. Once the SEC receives your application, they can come back with comments or questions, follow-up questions for you, or they can come back with your approval. Those are the options the attorney thinks that will happen. They very rarely come back and just say no without asking comments first, right? So, but if they need clarification on anything, then they'll come back with that. Once they give you the yes, then you get to submit your FINRA paperwork. And FINRA is the financial industry regulatory agency, and they kind of oversee all things securities. And so once the SEC gives you the yes, then you submit to FINRA. So the process we're working in now is we're just gathering all of the FINRA information so that when we receive, if we get the yes from SEC.
Win. I like the win.
Where the attorney said we had to say if, because we can't make any guarantees. In my head, when I say if, I mean when.
You say win. Yes. I like that.
So right now we are just gathering everything and sitting on go so that as soon as we get that, we're ready to submit. And we met with Cheri and I met with the attorney last Thursday, I believe it was. And she said she's good to go. She's got everything. There's like one thing we've got left to do. And then we're good to go. All of the officers took their fingerprints last week to get our FBI checks. So we are vetted, right? So it's not just the entrepreneur that's vetted, even the platform owners are vetted. And so we did all of that last week. And so we're super excited, for what this can do for the community as a whole. But to think about entrepreneurs who we know are underfunded, right? And we know that they are as Dr. Cheri just reminded us, right? The fastest growing business owners and entrepreneurs are Black women. And to know they just can't walk into a bank and get the money that they need to be able to create business opportunities that eventually hire others, as we just learned, which is the goal, right? That could solve so many problems that it's not easy for them to just do that. It's very disheartening. And we believe that if the 10K project is successful in receiving the approvals, that we'll be able to move the needle on that just a little bit. And as a community come together and really help each other. I personally feel even strongly about that population we just learned about that's under that 75,000. We got to figure out a way to help them. We've got to figure out a way. We've got to start hiring them and training them and helping them get a different mindset so that they can do the same thing for someone else. Because I keep feeling in all these conversations we've been having about economics and financial literacy, we keep leaving them behind. And we've got to figure out how to not do that. And I just hope that the 10K project can move the needle even a little bit on that, because that's my personal mission, just not to leave them behind.
It's a great mission. I have one other question. As I'm intrigued, and I'm already a member, but as I look into the investment part of it, I want to also market, the 10K project, because I think the more people who know, the more people you'll get. And so that will be part of, I think, my story of my store. It's very important. I mean, I really feel like the community has to move as one. It's how other people who come to this country and do well do it. They do it as a unit. And I think that's something we've been missing in for our history. And I know through my work, because I used to run very large scale luxury boutiques, but I always hired diversity. I hired Black women and Asian women and Hispanic women. I hired overweight women and skinny women that didn't fit the mold of Rodeo Drive, but were really good at their jobs. And I always succeeded, because if you give a person a chance who normally doesn't get a chance, they work very hard. So I think this mission is phenomenal, and I'm really excited about it. As soon as you feel you're ready to announce all this, I want to start moving forward with, okay, where do we start? Who do we start investing in? And I think to do this, the best way is to let more people know. You know, I ran across you guys, I think from Facebook or something, or Instagram or something. And, but I do think that there's too many people out there that don't know you exist. And the more people we get to know you exist, the better we'll do as a community. We can only succeed as a unit. I really believe that. We cannot, you know, I've had a very strong last few months where I've really connected with being a Black woman in this country and really how hard it is for us just all around. And it doesn't matter what part of this country you come from. It's hard. You know, when I'm around people, they go, oh, you're a light skin, you know, yeah, that's a privilege. It doesn't mean that I don't get called all kinds of names. It doesn't mean that people haven't told me I'm not right for a job. It doesn't mean that people haven't told me to straighten my hair over and over again. So I want to give other women who look like me, who look like you, who look like all of our friends, you know, the chance, just the chance. You know, I think if you give people a chance, they will do wonders. So I really applaud you guys for what you're doing. I'm really impressed with it, and I'm excited to see it grow. Yeah, I'm very excited to see it grow.
I would encourage you to invite people to the Family Bank Challenge that we're going to have. We'll talk a little bit more about it as the weeks progress. The team is putting it together behind the scenes, and as we decide on things and they're solidified, we are going to do that. But all I can say is it's going to be phenomenal. Some of the things that we have talked about last week and are putting together, I think is going to be a huge jump start to people for their Thanksgiving holidays, their Christmas holidays, and entering into 2021. And this is the right time. And Adoro is saying Family Bank Challenge ? Yep, Family Bank Challenge ! So
This is my
you
first
may be
one.
asking what a family bank is. We're going to explain that. I'm going to say again, if you are a member, if you look in the replay section, the very first one we have is the Family Bank replay. Click on that. It's an hour and a half. It's well worth it. You can even speed up the YouTube if you need to, but it's well worth it. They explain what a family bank is. This family started putting in $25 per family member per month. They now have 7 figures in cash and assets. They break it down how they did it, you know, what they invested in, what they lost money on, what they made money on. It is absolutely awesome. And a lot of us need to talk to our families over the holiday season about, hey, let's start 2021 off right. Let's have a family bank. And we'll definitely do a deep dive with regards to, well, a semi deep dive with regards to that. There's a lot of information that we will pass on to you, and really you make it your own. It's for your family to take some of the best practices and make it your own based on the type of family that you have.
And it's really important to us that while we're waiting for these approvals, that we continue to do what we know this community needs, and that's to educate and try to change the mind, you know, just give a mind shift change on all those things that are going to help us once we become or get the approval. Here are the things you already know because you've already learned them to get you ready on that investment journey, right? And on that business development journey. So we really didn't want to stay idle. And so, you know, Cheri is an amazing leader. She's always innovative in her thought process and thinking on how we can move this forward. And so, you know, the 10K is in good hands. I'm not just saying that because I'm here. I'm just telling you, we've got good leadership here and we work really well as a team. You know, one of the things we've all learned is that you got to look at the business team when you're thinking about investing as well. If the team's not strong and if they're not, you know, forward thinking, and then they're not going to make it, the odds are. And so I can tell you, you guys are in good hands with us because we've got a good leader in Cheri.
And you know what, may I add to just looking at Charlie truly is our profile of the kind of community we have. And as we keep saying, as Tawana's always saying, we don't want to leave anybody behind. But we do need our community to, you know, toot our horn, you know. So you really brought up a good point, you know, to tell people about us and each one reach one, and then you know,
Mhm.
that mind shift can start, because this is the place where the education is going forth, and we're hearing it in weekly, and it's sound, it's quality, you know, and we have really good dialogue around these things. And again, it's not just talk, we're doing the work, you know, so that's what's really important. So, you know, again, thank you, Charlie, for stepping out, and thank for everybody who's thinking about being a member, and our people who are members. You know, this is what we're about, and we need you.
I'm very excited to be a part of the group. It's
Thank
really
you.
exciting.
So
Yeah.
Charlie, I'm
Have
going to
you.
make you an attendee again. We're going to finish up with Dr.
Okay.
Cheri, but thank you so
Thank you.
much for being
Thank
It's a
on.
pleasure.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so we had a couple of questions in here that we wanted to answer. Ali is asking if we passed the 2K in membership as of today. The answer is no. So here's what we are doing. The Family Bank Challenge, we're putting everything, all of our focus, all of our marketing focus into the Family Bank Challenge. We believe that the Family Bank Challenge can bring in thousands, plural, of people if it is marketed properly and if it is structured properly, and if we have the back end information where you would tell your family and friends that, hey, this is something you really want to be a part of. So that is what we're focused on right now. Doesn't mean we aren't selling, 10K every day or talking it up every day, but we really, really are focused on that. And that is going to be, in my opinion, our big November spike. So but we need everyone's help in order to do it. I hope Dr. Cheri comes back on.
Let's hold
Okay.
Kevin's question, because I think that was for Dr. Cheri. So
Yeah, so
So-
Kevin's question, I wanted her to answer. Let me see if she's going to come back on.
And I'll just comment on one of the things I see in here. People are saying that they received their mask. So yay to the mask. I've got mine right here. So for any founding member who, and founding member was, you were our first 1,000 members. I sent you all masks. So today we're getting good feedback there. I know Talisha talked about doing something cool, coming up with a hashtag, and then we all post our masks. So that's another way for us to do some marketing. So that's more to come on that. We'll let Talisha lead the charge on that because she knows all things social.
She does. Yes, she does.
Yes, she
Yes.
does. So we'll
And
let her lead
there
on
are a
that, but
couple of
glad you all
questions
got
I
'em.
can answer here as well. So, and Dr. Cheri is coming back. Oh, she's back. Perfect.
I am back.
So one person here in YouTube, Wayne, said, we can help those under 75K by hiring our folks and paying them a living wage. I will say something else as well. We need to also focus on reskilling our people. The jobs that we have today are not going to be the jobs that we need in 2030. The people that we're hiring today need to be reskilled for 2030, 2040 skills. And if we're not doing that, then unfortunately, the businesses that, I'm a business owner, I have to participate in businesses that customers want. And there's a woman that I follow, Dee Williams, that talks about reskillifying people. We are going to have to, this is something that may come up in 10K if we're approved by the SEC and FINRA, so I'll put that in there, is there may end up being line items within some of the businesses that we are funding that says training, right? Training and development. And no, that may not be in our counterparts' P&Ls, but it may have to be in ours, where we may have to say, you know what? If we're serious about having employer-based businesses and hiring people, and we need to spend, 20, 25,000 additional dollars to do it, are we as the community willing to put that money up in order for that to happen? Otherwise, you have to get somebody who already has certain skills, and the people may not have the skills that you want to hire, but maybe with a class, they would. I hope
that's a good point, Cheri. One of the things we need to be having at the Thanksgiving dinner conversation, in addition to the Family Bank Challenge, is talking about those family members, both young and old, that we have that work in food service or retail. Let's start having those conversations about them taking a course. I think it was last week we had a conversation, and Talisha made the comment that you can get courses for like $25 teaching you something, a simple Excel course, right? The Microsoft Excel course to learn how to create spreadsheets. That's an asset that a business would need. It doesn't have to be, you don't necessarily need to go get a degree. If you can just add a few things on your, kind of in your belt or in your pocket so that you can have something to be able to say, I know this, right? And I can bring value to your business because I know it. We've got to teach our family members how to sell themselves so they don't have to continue to get the same low-paying job over and over and over again. The goal should be, as an HR professional, I can tell you the goal should always be to elevate a little, right? The next job should be better than the last.
That's right.
It should not even be lateral, right? I'm probably going to get some flack from my HR professional colleagues by saying that, because we got to fill lateral positions sometimes. Sometimes we need you to do a job and there's no money to give you, so i.e. lateral. But the truth is, as an individual, you want to always do something better than you did the last time, and you want it to pay you more, and or give you the opportunity to learn something different so that when you make the next jump, it makes up for that jump you had to take that didn't pay more, right? So it always has to be strategic. We should not be taking jobs just to be taking jobs. We have to be thinking about what we're doing and why, and how it's going to affect us down the line. When they ask you that silly question about where do you see yourself in 5 years, start thinking about yourself in 5 years, right? The question is on purpose. It's for a reason. So those are conversations. Instead of talking about WAP and all that other stuff that we're going to talk about during the holidays, let's talk about this. Yeah. Let's try to get our young people and our older people who are still in those jobs to see something different for themselves. If not, they will continue to be left behind. And that's what we're trying to change. Yes. You got to help us help them.
That's right. And I do want to say one profession that a lot of people sleep on that you can get in and make good money is sales. Sales. You can take a sales class, learn how to sell, start off, at the bottom. There are people that will take you in where you're not experienced in a certain category or industry, and you can grow from there, and you can do it without having a degree, certain degrees, et cetera, et cetera. So I keep pushing sales for people because, there's a lot of opportunity and technology sales.
That's a special kind of person that can do, I suck at sales. I am so, you say you don't want, I'm like, okay, I'm horrible at sales. But there are people who are gifted, right? That cousin that you have that's always selling you on how to loan him money, that's your candidate for sales.
Or not even that. The people who are, so I'm a great salesperson, but I always say the best salespeople are the best teachers. If you can teach someone something and they say, oh, I like you, I want more of that, then you're able to sell. So that's just something, something to think about. Someone asked here, you talked about reskilling. What do you think of Udemy, Plainsight, google.grow.com? I know Udemy very well. I'm a fan. I don't know the other two, but there are tons of places where you can take low cost or no cost YouTube. YouTube is a great, resource for learning a lot of different things.
Now you've got even some of the
Linda
is your Yales are doing, your Harvard and Yale and
Harvard
all
and
of
Yale are doing things.
Are doing
Yes.
courses.
Yes,
about
you're
getting
also able to go through
licenses.
lynda.com, Lynda. It's owned by LinkedIn now. There's so many places that you can go. I would start off, y'all know my terminology, assess, prepare, execute. So when Tawana talked about where do you want to be in 5 years, that's the assessing. What are your skills today? Where do you want to be in 5 years? What's the gap? What training do you need? And then prepare is the actual taking of the training and buckling down and say, hey, I'm going to do this in 30 days. And you just get laser focused on that. And then execute, adding it to your LinkedIn once you've got your certification or taken a class, or maybe you need a couple of projects in order to build a portfolio, reaching out to people on LinkedIn saying, hey, would you mind? I'm trying to get a portfolio together. I'll do something for free or low cost, just to get a portfolio together. You'd be surprised who would say yes.
Yes.
Rita just made a wonderful point. She said the urban leagues across the country have many free training programs. They absolutely do. That's a great suggestion, Rita. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Cheri, Kevin has a question here. The government must embrace fiscal policy, for instance, in which there is investment into infrastructure, education opportunities, etc., in order to reverse the economic trend, supply side, that has been adopted over the past 40 years. This will have a profound positive impact not only on Black America, but throughout society as a whole. But what specifically can we do as a group to economically improve our status?
You all have just mentioned it. Retool, get more education, and education not just in the form of formal education, going to college, technical schools, licenses, certifications, retooling yourself so that you are reskilled in in your area at a higher level or in a completely different area, but retooling. Getting that education that you need so that you can apply for those other positions that you're looking for, or if you're talking about entrepreneurship, making sure that you are thinking not just of, again, trying to replace your income, but expanding it and scaling in a way that you're creating jobs. Other ways is not, I'm going to repeat what you all have said, investing in platforms and investing in groups like the 10K Project. Everybody can't be entrepreneurs, but every household can be an investor, and every household can invest. Every household can take savings and invest it in business. Every household can take their resources and budget them in a way that your money is making money. I tell my students all the time that you're rich if you are working for your money and you get at a certain level. You're rich because you're working for your money. You're wealthy when your money is working for you, especially since money never sleeps. We're here in the US and the sun is going down and Wall Street has closed. But in a couple of hours, the Nikkei is about to open up. And you also have, which is the Wall Street equivalent in the Far East. And then you have the Wall Street equivalent in Germany. And so your money is constantly, if your money is making money while you're asleep, while you're on vacation, while you're reskilling. Back in the day, we used to say we had multiple hustles. Now we've become sophisticated and said we need to have multiple streams of income. You need multiple streams of income. And so when you have, whether it's real estate, whether it's investment in businesses, whether it is passive income because we're in stock markets or REITs or whatever, and or you have, in addition to passive income, you have all of these other areas that you can derive income from. And so how do we get to that place where we can get to, to answer your question, educate ourselves, learn new skills, new trades, make investments, not just only in ourselves, but in other businesses and in the community as well.
That's perfect. And on that, number one is we would like you to be our resident economist. So
Okay.
maybe once a quarter or something like that, we
Okay.
have you come on, you give us an update of what's happening in
Okay.
the economy, some of the
Okay.
things we should think about. I had additional questions for you that I didn't even get to ask you tonight. So it was going to spill over into the next time. But we
Okay.
want to thank you so much for
Thank
enlightening
you.
us and
Thank you.
coming and, everything you've done. You've been great. Thank you to Charlie as well for the great, questions and conversation that we had with regards to that. If you're not a part of the 10K project, we hope that you come on board with us because the train is leaving the station. Tawana, Dr. Keisha, do you have any final words for the family?
I want to thank everyone for spending time with us this evening. I truly believe that your time is the greatest gift you can give. So every week you guys keep showing up. So do we. And thank you for that.
Yes, definitely. Each one, reach one, tell a friend about us. We need you. We appreciate you so much. And let's learn some things together and let's really change our mindsets and really make an impact on our economy and our community.
Absolutely. So thank you, everybody. And we will get to that Citigroup report as well, maybe in a couple of weeks. So, all right, everybody. Good night.
Good night.